Welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of Blueprints and Banter. I am your host, Steve Kona, and I am joined by the chairman of the board, David Tercios. David, welcome.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. As Steve said, my name is David Tercios. I am the Vice President of Tampa Operations for the Ginyard Company, and I am the proud chairman of the Florida Gulf Coast chapter for 2024.
Always glad to have you as my co-host and my wingman here, Dave. You want to talk about the sponsors of this amazing program?
Yeah, of course. So, everything that we do is thanks in big part to the diamond level sponsors that we have for our chapter this year. So this year we have Callista Cabinets, Ginyard Company, Milwaukee Tools, and Piper Fire. We cannot say thank you enough for your sponsorship of our chapter, which does allow us to bring content like this to you.
So today, as the dust settles on the legislative session in Tallahassee, we thought we would bring to you the successes that ABC had and the construction industry had in Tallahassee this year. So without further ado, I'd like to bring in our special guest, ABC of Florida Chief Lobbyist, Carol Bowen. Carol, welcome to Blueprints and Banter. We are happy to have you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, David. Thanks for having me with you today. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you.
We're very happy you could join us.
Now, Carol, for the folks that don't know you, introduce yourself.
Sure. So Carol Bowen, I'm your chief lobbyist for Associated Builders and Contractors of Florida. For those of you that may or may not know, there's 5 chapters of ABC in the state that make up ABC of Florida that exist purely for legislative and political initiatives. I get the privilege and honor of being your voice in Tallahassee, working with you to make sure that we are pushing forward policies and arguments that better things across the board for the commercial construction industry. I also have the pleasure of leading our supplemental team of lobbyists from Greg Robinson, and I've been with ABC in some capacity, one way, shape, or the other, since about 2007, if memory serves. It's been a while, so happy to be here today. Love working for y'all. It's a great industry to represent.
Yeah, and Carol, just from, us here at the Florida Gulf Coast chapter, we appreciate everything that you do for us and the amazing work that you do in Tallahassee. So kudos to you. We had another successful session. You want to talk about in general, like what happened this year that's different than previous years, and and then we'll talk about the ABC bills after that.
Sure. So this session is different for 2 reasons. One, it's an earlier one. It started in January and ran January, February, finished the first Friday in March. That is a constitutionally set calendar, and we alternate when sessions happen this early. It's always in an election year. So they're done. They're back in their district. They're starting to focus on their reelection campaigns or their first campaigns for different seats. Because of that, and because when our committee week started in the fall, Governor DeSantis was still in the race for the president, the committee weeks were sort of slow to get rolling. We had a lot of panel discussions. Steve, you were a great participant on one on workforce education and apprenticeship. Thank you for doing that. It was really an opportunity for the legislature to kind of get caught up on the impact of things they've passed before, like Live Local and different budget initiatives. It really wasn't until end of November, beginning of December, where bills started moving. In total, about 1,800 bills were filed, just under right around 300 passed, which is sort of on par for what we've seen. But they did wait until January to really start moving some of the more, the heavier lifts, the things that may or may not have been controversial. So slower start, impactful session, lots of good things that came out of it, and ready to dig in on some of those with you.
Yeah, and what's amazing is a lot of people don't realize is that the legislature really just has one job, and that's to pass a budget. So really, they only have one bill that they need to pass. So this year, having over almost 1,800 bills, and like you said, less than 300 of those bills passed. A lot of work happened in Tallahassee this year. And I guess this is the last year of leadership for Kathleen Passidomo, Senator Passidomo, and House Speaker Paul Renner. So lots of stuff that they did, that they accomplished. Let's talk about the ABC bills. Dave, you want to talk about continuing contracts a little bit?
Yeah, so that's an ABC-sponsored bill that we worked very hard as ABC of Florida to put the wording together and get sponsors. On the House side, it was Representative Danny Alvarez, and on the Senate side, it was Senator Nick DeSigli. Carol, can you talk about how that bill was born by ABC, and then the process that you basically spearheaded that process, or not basically, you did spearhead that process to get it across the finish line. Can you talk about how that process works?
Absolutely. And let's begin by thanking our sponsors. For those of you that are from the Gulf Coast chapter area, Steve will tell you repeatedly that you have the best elected official and delegations in your area.
We do.
Two of the sponsors for this bill, House Bill 149, were from the Gulf Coast region. Senator DeSegli actually carried this bill the first time we took a stab at it, which was back in 2021. I'm sure you all know, but continuing contracts are a great opportunity for smaller businesses to kind of get their footing in the public works process, partnering with public entities, working through that on numerous but smaller projects. It's a great opportunity for public entities to put out multiple projects in one competitive solicitation, and it's a cost savings around the board. In 2021, we increased the cap, because there is a cap. Any project that you work on or any collective project can't exceed the state cap. Back in 2021, it was $2 million, which had been that way for more than a decade. We increased it to $4 million, which just kind of reflected the way the market was going. This past session, what we heard from our members, David, and to your point, when we were at our legislative planning conference, the dollar doesn't get you as far as it used to, and the cost of materials is up, and the workforce shortage is impacting the cost of everything. And so this opportunity that exists for public entities and smaller companies really wasn't what it was supposed to be. So we increased that cap up to 7.5 million, but then we also tied this process in the future and that cap in the future to the consumer price index. So on an annual basis, Florida will see where that CPI is, and then it will adjust the cap. And the benefit of that is that we don't have to keep coming back to the legislature to make this adjustment. But another benefit, David, to your point, that sometimes we don't get to highlight is that this was a bill. It was a simple bill. We increased the cap and tapped it to the CPI. We are going to expand opportunities for so many in the state of Florida, but we partnered with people that sometimes we're on opposite sides with. And that was the League of Cities and the Association of Counties, architects and engineers. Everybody came to the table and said, this is great, let's move forward. And again, Representative Alvarez was just a tremendous champion in the House. He had no patience for the slow start, which I love and I celebrate. And so once we got the ball rolling, one of the best sponsors I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And Senator DeSegli carried this reform when he was in the state House, when we went from 2 to 4. So it was like coming home for him. And from that point on, we truly had unanimous support in every committee and on the floor. I think we had maybe 1 or 2 no votes, and that was about it.
Yeah, and I think it's I think it's good to mention that the Association of Counties and League of Cities were on board here, because you have to admit it's hard for them to procure work as well. It's hard for them to get competition. And I think increasing that cap allows more people the opportunity to bid on those projects and deliver work for all of our public entities. And that includes airports, schools, counties, cities. So it was a great bill. And I think, even if Florida has a little bit of a slowdown on the private side, you're going to see the public sector being able to engage and do more construction work, and procure that work a lot faster. So Carol, thanks for helping getting this over the finish line, and props to Representative Alvarez and Senator DeSegli for all of their continued hard work.
Just say something real quickly. So first off, I'm happy to say that I am a constituent of Representative Alvarez. So he is definitely he is my representative. So I'll take full credit for that.
Okay.
Carol, though, you're quite humble in that delivery of how this bill was passed, and I appreciate that. But this is the first year that I've really taken time to go online and watch when you go up there and testify in front of the committees. And to anybody who gets the Monday Minute email from you, you typically attach those links. I got to say that process is, to see you up there is extremely impressive. So, big thank you. You're a huge asset to ABC of Florida. We appreciate your efforts from that standpoint. If I could just, talk about one thing really quickly. So I know we're just focusing on our bills today and the ones that we've sponsored and are trying to take across the finish line. But as Steve mentioned, 1,732 bills were filed in Tallahassee this year. Can you talk about the process that you take to, how do you keep an eye on all the bills that are important to our industry?
Thank you again, David, and I appreciate the compliment. I would say one of the best parts of this job is getting the opportunity to speak on your behalf, but also speak on behalf of construction. What you find as you raise a bill or speak on behalf of somebody else's bill or in opposition, not a lot of people are coming to Tallahassee with any base or background in construction. So we always have that learning curve. And to your point, each of our bills and then other bills that we have to track, there's always that point where you have to sit with an elected official and say, this is what this actually means. As an association, we track, oh gosh, I probably had 200 bills that I was watching this session, and they would fall under certain categories. The easy and obvious ones, you put anything that has the word building in it. And then you phase through and you realize some are appropriation requests, some are not important, but anything that touches building regulations, anything that touches lien law, condo bills are always incredibly massive and comprehensive. And you watch these topics, affordable housing, and anything touching insurance, procurement and permitting, and you watch these bills because once you open a section of Florida statute, anybody can try to amend it. So there might be a bill, sort of innocuous about, permitting regulations. And then in the final hours of session, you start to see, okay, I know this group, they're going to try to slip something in. We might be for it, we might not. But you have to be in constant communication with the bill sponsors. Let them know that you're watching it. Let them know that you may have to engage. And what we've been really fortunate through the activity and effort of our chapter members and our chapter leaders, our leadership in Tallahassee has really gotten to know us. So more often than not, I get a phone call saying, Carol, do you guys care about this bill? What do you think that impact is? So to your point, David, I go on and I create a variety of searches and I create my list. And then as session moves forward, you can start to whittle it down. But the threat isn't so much other bills that are filed. It's the threat of bills that can open up sections of statute where amendments that may hurt you come in. And that's also sort of the fun part of session. It's a little like Hunger Games. You've got to be watching, the entire time. But it's a lot of fun. For our side, and I would love to hit this because how we get our bill sponsors, how we come up with the language, it really is a team sport. We go, and I know we'll hit on this later, but so I won't go into too much detail, but once ABC has decided that something is a priority for us, I have the privilege of then going to the legislature and identifying sponsors for you. And as much as I said that not everybody comes with a background in construction, there are a ton of people that understand the importance in the industry and are willing to fight for you. So I don't know whether or not any of our sponsors join you later on, but everybody that we worked with is ready to kind of carry that flag, not just for ABC, but for the industry. And that's one of the best parts of my job, getting to work with these people closely and see them advocate on your behalf. It's amazing. It's great fun.
And I will tell you, just to kind of double down on what you just said, the art of playing defense and just being a voice at the table when issues come up in Tallahassee, it's huge. It's huge for our industry. The fact that you're up there during the whole session and we know what's going on, and we can stop things that could be harmful to the industry. And defense is probably the best thing that we do, is be able to play defense. Getting bills passed is great. So it's a uphill battle to pass anything in Tallahassee, but playing defense is something that we do all the time.
So in the spirit of playing defense, that kind of we can talk about our other bill, ABC sponsored bill, which is the heat ordinance preemption bill. That was a bill that was born by ABC in defense of what a municipality was trying to push down in the Miami area. I know there's a lot more to that. So Carol, can you maybe explain it a little better than I just stumbled upon?
So you did. We're going to corral it all. We're going to bring all.
Appreciate that.
So last summer, you may recall that Miami-Dade County had a pending ordinance that would have mandated a certain level of outdoor activity for outdoor workers, but they focused just on construction and the agriculture industry. So right from the start, that this is a targeted effort. The ordinance went through various iterations, but in essence, it would have required a break, I believe, every hour. For any employee that was working outside. And then it would have required shade, hydration, and rest. And that seems very basic. That seems, common sense. That also, ironically, is what OSHA recommends already. the issue when ABC starts to fight things like this, and we, throughout this conversation, this was a collaborative effort. I appreciate you saying it was ABC sponsored. This was an industry born bill. And as much as I like to take credit, this was a shared approach through so many people. So there were a ton of people at the table: Chamber, AIF, home builders, ABC, AGC, across the board. Anybody that had a workforce that worked outside was working together in Miami-Dade County, but then also in Tallahassee. And the reason that that ordinance was concerning for us wasn't because of, an industry that hates their employees. That's the rhetoric, but it's also nonsense. It's because Miami-Dade County's ordinance also created a brand new branch of government, which was an enforcement arm. And the enforcement element of that ordinance would have allowed people all day long to be walking on job sites, which is a safety risk and a safety hazard. It would have paid for this new arm of local government via fines, fees, and penalties launched against the construction and ag industry. It also would have allowed bystanders, average everyday people, to kind of come onto job sites and ask people if they were hydrated. The security risk of that alone should have put the ordinance to a screeching halt. So in Tallahassee, again, that collaborative team, all of those industries worked with Representative Tiffany Esposito and Senator Jay Trumbull. Trumbull has a background in construction and also business ownership. And then Representative Esposito, her husband, is in construction. And so we were blessed with people who understand the industry, and that the best way to keep our employees safe is to have uniform, consistent policies. And so at the end of the day, House Bill 433 passed. It's on the governor's desk waiting for his signature. And what it says is, look, OSHA may not have a heat safety regulation, and I hate air quotes, but that's what people keep saying, but they have the general duty of care, right? Every employer has to take care of their employee, not just specific to construction and ag. Nobody should be unsafe in their workspace, and that applies across the board. So in Florida, rather than having 67 different ordinances and 400 plus municipal rules and regs, we're going to have a uniform policy. And if by 2028, OSHA hasn't established their new heat safety standard, which they're doing in conjunction with the CDC, then Florida is going to create a statewide one. And that's what we need. We need predictability and certainty so that mistakes don't happen when you're crossing that geographic barrier to do work.
Yes.
So we're hopeful the governor signs. It should happen this week.
Awesome. So knowing that and knowing how important it is to build our workforce, let's talk about the career and technical education bill that passed. Representative Snyder, Senator Simon, House Bill 917. You want to talk about that and how that bill got a lot of weird publicity as well?
So the new fun fact for everybody listening, the new trend in reporting is to do Freedom of Information Act requests or just watch testimony and then make up stories based on it. So House Bill 917 is a 20+ page bill aimed at expanding career and technical education courses and opportunities throughout Florida. The legislature has done an amazing job over the last few administrations in expanding not just offerings, but acceptance, right? We're not there's nothing wrong with dirty jobs. There's nothing wrong with a career in these fields that can give you such financial independence and future wealth. But that storyline of everybody must go to college is still present. So the purpose of the bill was, let's take stock of what Florida's done with apprenticeship. Let's look at what we're doing with CTE, that career and technical education, and then let's identify where are there vacuums of opportunity? Where are there kind of CTE deserts in the state? And what can we do with our private sector and public sector and our state legislature to expand it? It sounds so super simple. It should have been the warm fuzzy. We did work with the home builders on this bill, and they had already done some research identifying that they have members who want to enroll people in apprenticeship programs. They want to start construction career academies in their area. There's nothing out there right now. So as a slow start, a slow walk to giving people options, they wanted to change a section of law for Florida that would now allow 16 and 17-year-olds to get some on-the-job training experience. And that's all the bill did. And what happened is there was another piece of legislation out there, House Bill 49, that amends Florida's child labor laws. That bill dropped when our Senate version of 917 dropped. And so the media just kind of connected them together. They're unrelated pieces of legislation, certainly that will impact each other. But our bill became the bill known as Kids on Roofs. We were going to put 16 and 17-year-olds on roofs, let them operate tower cranes, forego all kinds of safety and put people at risk. Obviously, that's not our intent. I think the home builders were more than willing with us to kind of streamline their goal and the language and tighten it up. And I think Representative Snyder and Senator Simon did a tremendous job of landing the plane. Interesting fact, Senator Simon's son, one of his sons is in a welding program and loves it. And Representative Snyder got his start in the military, in the Marines, where he also got some experience in the welding aspect of what our military does. So firm believers in the importance of CTE, a cautionary tale about not believing everything you read in the media or the soundbite. And then also the current trend of not really being given an opportunity to respond. More often than not, I would get a text from a reporter saying, hey, we're going to do an article on your Kids on Roofs bill, to which I would say, the bill's not about kids on roofs. At no time, and let's clarify for those listening, under no certain circumstances will our bill allow 16 and 17-year-olds to do anything above 6 feet, anything on or near, anything that violates OSHA, Fair Labor Standards Act, or any other federal standard relating to construction. We are safety focused and safety bound.
Yeah. It's unbelievable, the rhetoric that happened during that bill. And I know I took a lot of media requests. You took a lot of media requests and interviews. And so I'm glad it got passed. I think there's some really good nuggets in that bill that will ultimately change the way school districts operate in the world of career and technical education. And I think we're going to see the benefits of it for a long time to come. So that was great that bill got passed. One other bill that I want to talk about briefly is a bill that kind of generated here in the Gulf Coast, and our friends at RSA Consulting, who handle some of our local work and obviously help you in Tallahassee as well. The Pinellas County Licensing Board Reform Bill. Representative Linda Cheney kind of spearheaded that with the local delegation. And for those folks that don't know, if you ever want to do work in Pinellas County, regardless if you have a state license, you would then have to go to Pinellas County and get their local license in order to do that work. Pinellas County also required, for example, somebody who gets a continuing contract to then have to go get a local Pinellas County license. So we thought that was a very redundant process. We were able to talk to all of the delegation in Pinellas County. They were open to reforming this. And I know there's one other county, and I believe it's Palm Beach, that has a licensing board as well. So we're hoping that this bill, now that it did get passed, is the opportunity for maybe we can work with Palm Beach to see if they're willing to drop the requirement for other people to have to get an additional license in that county as well.
So I would say that your local bill is a tremendous example of where people try to take advantage of the construction industry. That's why your bill was necessary. So many people don't understand how our industry works, don't understand that the perceived deep pockets aren't there to serve as a bank to fund whatever will or whim of local governments or building departments or whatever their latest effort may be. The redundancies of licensing, the redundancies of fee payment does nothing other than inhibit and hinder the industry from growing. And it hurts your small businesses. When we talk about growing the industry, your big members who we have and we love and we adore them, they will always be able to meet that charge, but they also may get sick of it at some point, right? And may seek to do work elsewhere. We need a balance. We need an understanding that at the end of the day, the more you nickel and dime the start of a project or how people are allowed to work, the more the cost of the project comes up and the more that taxpayers feel that. So when we have conversations about the unaffordability of construction, it's not because people are deciding this is how much I'm going to charge for it. Oftentimes it's how much they have to charge to level set based on the fees that they incur just for the privilege of doing the job. So the local bill was a great win. We can't have those fiscal or financial redundancies. It's nothing more than an effort to tax an industry that's misunderstood.
Yep. So let's do this. That's a lot, right? That's a lot in a 60-day session. We accomplished a lot. There was a lot going on, lots of wins for the industry. Any other bills that you want to kind of spotlight or highlight before we talk about how we're going to come up with a plan for the next legislative session?
So I think you have to look at the fact that there were a number of bills that kind of took a lot of bandwidth in the legislature to get across the board, which also impacted how much passed. So you have things like the second version of Live Local. That was Senate Bill 328. Tremendous job actually in addressing some of the confusion that the first Live Local did. So I think that bill tightens things up. It really holds everybody's feet to the fire to say, look, we know what makes sense. We know what we meant. Don't misinterpret the first bill. Here's how you can proceed. I think that's tremendous. I think the other thing that we have to realize is there's some great stuff coming, like the tax package that's coming out. Florida continues to hold a number of sales tax holidays, not just for I don't know, camping or whatever it may be for July 4th. That's a big one. Back to school. That's a big one. There's a tool time sales tax holiday that continues. ABC secured that a few years ago. That happens at Labor Day. And really it's meant for people starting their career to go out and be able to get that first set of tools at a lesser cost. So we appreciate the support of that. But then you look at things like commercial rents. Those are coming down again this year. Workers' comp rates are coming down again this year. There's a lot of good that happened this session that impacts the industry and should continue to hopefully attract more and more people, not just to Florida, but to the importance in the industry and helping us build it out. And let's do a plug. We're always hiring, right? And there's no shortage of members who are willing to enroll employees in workforce education programs. We need that skilled workforce, and we need it sooner rather than later.
Yep, for sure. I know a lot of people ask us all the time, well, how do you guys come up with all of these ideas to run in Tallahassee? So I guess it's a good time to promote our ABC of Florida convention and legislative planning conference.
Yeah, so the next one is planned for July 18th to 20th at the Trade Winds in St. Petersburg. Our next episode, we're going to talk more about how that whole process is and give information for anybody who wants to come with us, any ABC member who wants to come with us.
Yeah, so they can go to abcofflorida.com and they can click on, I guess it's events, and the convention information is on there and they can register. And we're looking forward to coming up with a whole new set of ideas for Tallahassee next year. So, Carol, I just want to thank you for giving us this legislative wrap up. And we look forward to maybe at the next episode, we're talking about the future and elections and what it looks like for next year. So thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you being part of Blueprints and Banter, and we will see you next time.
Take care.
Thank you.